We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our Old Building Forum. This is a quarterly virtual offering. Today's Old Building Forum is entitled Old House, New Energy. Before I get started, I want to say thanks to people that make our work possible here at Maine Preservation. So thanks to our preservation champions, Susan and George Craig, Diversified Communications, Anne and Ben Niles, Anne and Donald Rogers, and Anna Marie and John Thron. And thanks also to our industry leader sponsors, Chenberg, Down East, Norway Savings Bank, and Less Fossil of Restoration Resources, and also the support of all the individuals and companies listed here. Thank you. I should have introduced myself. I'm Brad Miller. I'm the Director of Programs and Services here at Maine Preservation. A little bit about ourselves. Founded in 1972, we're a statewide preservation advocacy nonprofit dedicated to promoting and preserving historic places, buildings, downtowns, and neighborhoods, strengthening the cultural and economic vitality of Maine communities. We do this, kind of carry out our mission in a variety of different ways. I like to break it down into 5 different categories in our work. That's technical assistance, financial support, stewardship, education, and advocacy. So technical assistance, we're out in the field helping any number of historic property stewards, from a homeowner, which I suspect a lot of you are joining us today as homeowners, given the topic, all the way up to commercial properties and municipalities. We also provide financial support. We help secure grant funding for nonprofit organizations and provide direct granting support to nonprofits through our grant program funded through the 1772 Foundation. In our stewardship, we also take more direct roles in protecting and preserving historic properties, primarily through our preservation easement program. And this is essentially legal agreements that are used to protect properties in perpetuity as they continue to be used by future generations. And then education is very much a part of what we're doing today through our Old Building Forum. So bringing in preservation experts and others in the field to convenings like this to talk about preservation, talk about energy efficiency, repairing old homes, as well as training the next generation of preservationists through our Summer Fellows program, where we welcome students studying preservation to the state of Maine, where they get hands-on and in the office experience. And then finally, advocacy. We advocate for legislation at the state and federal level that supports preservation and makes that possible. But we also recognize preservation excellence through our honor words, and kind of raise the alarm through our most endangered historic places list, which is an annual list that calls attention to buildings or places in need of kind of immediate attention. So just a few quick updates about what we're doing across the state. Through our technical assistance, we offer a monthly Monday meetup, and that virtual group meets via Zoom. The next one is March 2nd at 12 p.m. And it's grouped by cohorts. And so this one will actually be a gathering of homeowners. So if you'd like to join, it's free. All you have to do is register through our website, mainepreservation.org. It's a great opportunity to talk to our staff, but more importantly, to talk to peer historic homeowners and kind of learn from them. The best way to learn is through your peers, and this is a great opportunity to do that. In our education realm, one next big thing coming up is our annual Jane's Walk Festival. This is the first Saturday of May every year, and this is a global free citizen-led walking festival, or festival of walking tours. And it's named after Jane Jacobs, who is an activist and preservationist in New York City, who really kind of taught us how to turn to the people and to our own communities and neighbors to effect change in the places where we live. And these walks are very much inspired by that. As I said, these are citizen-led, and so you can submit your own walk that you'd like to lead in your community. We're accepting walk ideas through March 27th. And we're also hosting a walk leader training, which is actually tomorrow, February 25th at 11 a.m. And you can sign up for that training or submit a walk idea at janeswalkme.org. Another event coming up a little bit sooner is our annual Honor Awards program. This is an opportunity for us to recognize preservation excellence. This year, we'll be honoring 9 projects and 1 individual. The ceremony is on March 18th, the ceremony and celebration at the Good Theater at Stevens Square Community Center in Portland, which was a previous honoree. It's an adaptively reused high school turned community center. And we hope that you all can join us for that. Registration and tickets are available on our website. And then finally, for our last update, as I said, we advocate for sound preservation legislation at the state and federal levels. And up in Augusta, we're advocating particularly for 2 bills in this session, LD 435 and LD 761. Both of these bills were carried over from the last session. So 435 is an act to expand the historic property rehabilitation tax credit. This would expand the state's tax credit program by making the program permanent, fixing the credit so that it works for smaller commercial buildings in our villages, towns, and cities, and would also kind of transformationally create a homeowner tax credit, which we think there's a great demand for that, and a program that exists in about half the other states in the country, and would go a long way to supporting our aging building stock. As I said, this bill passed the legislation last year, but was left unfunded at the appropriations table. And we're encouraging the governor to include it in her supplemental budget, or for the legislature's Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee to include it in theirs. Then the second bill, LD 761, is an act to support the maintenance, preservation, and promotion of state historic sites. This bill would be a one-time allocation of $18 million that would go towards significant cultural sites that the state is responsible for maintaining and preserving. These are state historic sites that there's an immense backlog of maintenance across these places. Just in most recent years, through our most endangered list, we have highlighted a few of these. Pictured is the Colburn House, which is actually historically significant for its ties to the Revolutionary War, which is timely this year, the 250th. This is where Benedict Arnold commenced his expedition up to confront the British in Quebec, unsuccessfully, unfortunately. We also included Fort George and Castine, as well as Eagle Island off the coast of Harpswell. And so we believe this bill would be a step in the right direction towards funding these places that are significant to the people of Maine and our history. And with that, I'll also say all this work is possible with the support of people like you, and we welcome that support. And if you'd like to support us today, you can find more information about how to do that at mainepreservation.org/donate. It is now my pleasure to welcome our speakers today, who will help us explore funding resources available to Mainers and the practical application of energy efficiency and decarbonization measures in an old home. I'll first introduce our first speaker, but just want to note we are saving time at the end for question and answer. If you have a question that comes to mind as they're speaking, feel free to throw it in the chat, and Maisie and I will look to that at the end of the presentations, so make sure all those questions are answered and addressed. I know sometimes you get that question, you forget what you're going to say by the time the Q&A comes around, so we'll be sure to help you recall those. So without further ado, I will turn my screen over to Bridget Gifford, Bridget is a senior program manager at Efficiency Maine. Bridget has spent the past decade at Efficiency Maine, where she serves as a senior program manager overseeing residential rebate programs for heat pumps and insulation. Additionally, she leads the organization's low and moderate income verification procedures, ensuring that assistance reaches those who need it most. A Yarmouth resident, Bridget brings extensive experience in helping Maine homeowners access resources to improve their home energy performance. And with that, I will turn it over to Bridget.
Thank you so much, Brad. Well, thanks for having me. I'm going to run through our residential offerings. These are really our residential rebates. And just keep in mind that Efficiency Maine has rebates and incentives for all sorts of facility types, not just residential, but today I'm just going to be talking about residential, which means a single family home, a duplex, or a condo. And so trying to advance my slide. Okay, so this is just a little briefing about who is Efficiency Maine. We run all of the state's energy efficiency programs. Most every state in the country has efficiency programs, and those are typically housed within the utilities. In Maine, it's a little different. We run it through state government. There's a handful of states that do it that way, and we find that to be best practice. Like, we're really serious about energy efficiency. We're not also trying to sell electricity. And the things that we do, we mostly provide provide incentives. So rebates and helping motivate homeowners and others to tackle that efficiency project. So we've got rebates available. We have a financing tool. We have loans, home energy loans. We've got calculators on our website that can help you sort of understand what will the impact be. And then we have a database of installers to do the work. So when we're talking about some of our rebate measures, we need to have a professional installer do that in order to capture the rebate. I'm going to talk soon about our water heating, which is a little bit different. That's going to be a do-it-yourself option, but most everything else needs to have the professional with those credentials and those minimum qualifications. And on our website, we have access to all of those folks, and you can sort by your zip code to see who in your area is doing that work. And then our funding comes from a lot of different sources. We've got a board of directors appointed by the governor. Just a little bit about who we are. Benefits of energy efficiency. I think this is pretty obvious, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but the graphic just shows you a bit about how the cool air enters your home and the warm air exits your home. And so certainly tightening up the envelope of your home, the exterior is an important piece of being energy efficient and comfortable. So today we're going to talk about what we can do to be more energy efficient, who can do it, and how do we pay for it. I'm going to start with our water heating. I mentioned this is sort of a do-it-yourselfer. If you're handy, this is what the heat pump water heater looks like, a lot like a electric resistance tank. And this top portion is sort of the heat pump technology. There's no other piece of equipment here. It's just all contained in one tank. We tend to say, basements, unfinished basement spaces are a great application for this. They tend to kick out a little bit of cooler air. They also help dehumidify the space they're installed in. So an unfinished basement is ideal. They're a little taller than your traditional electric water heater. So you want to have at least a 6-foot clearance in your basement. They make lots of hot water, and every year over the inefficient water heating, they can save more than $500 just in operational costs. This is just looking at how we heat our water in Maine, all the different ways we do that, and the typical costs annually. And so you can see the heat pump water heater is almost the most energy efficient a lot of places in Maine don't have access to natural gas, which would be the most efficient here on the bar chart. But we're really comparing the heat pump water heater with the electric resistance tank at the far end there. So it's quite a savings. This is how you can get that water heater. They are for sale at Lowe's and Home Depot and other plumbing retailers. So there's a QR code. You can scan that right in the aisle. When you get to the register, you're going to fill in your information through your email. You're going to receive that barcode, and it's going to be right at that point of purchase. The discount will be taken off of your water heater, so that when you leave the store, you don't have to then do anything else. You've already captured that rebate. This is a financial example, just looking at, that typical traditional water heater and the heat pump water heater and all the savings that you can expect. So the warranty's longer in the heat pump water heater. It's larger. It's got 10 extra gallons. It does tend to cost a bit more, and that's where our rebate comes in. So there is a tax credit on the 2025, and if that applies to you, you can capture that extra $150 before you file your taxes this year. But for new purchases in 2026, that won't apply. So then we have our final purchase cost is already much less than the traditional electric water heater, and then you've got that annual electricity savings. So it's sort of a no-brainer. This is sort of our gateway measure. If you're going to do nothing else, think about a water heater. And we're going to move next to heat pumps. This is the same technology, but very different. We're talking about heating and cooling our spaces. So this is the outdoor unit here you're going to see. And there will be a corresponding indoor unit. So some of the benefits here, saving a lot of money, increasing comfort. It's heating and cooling. It's dehumidification and air filtration. There's a fan mode. And so there's a lot of applications here just to keep you comfortable at home. And other benefits where, you don't have to be lugging your window air shakers every season, checking fuel tank levels and things like that. This is a similar cost comparison chart that we looked at with water heating. This is space heating and where the heat pump falls in that sort of continuum of efficiency. We heat our homes a lot of different ways in Maine, and so sometimes we heat them more than one way. On our website is a calculator, and you can put in your own consumption data. Say you use like 1 quart of wood and 800 gallons of oil, and you can just sort of see what your expenses were annually and what they could be with a heat pump. And these values are updated on our website pretty regularly. You can see that these were taken on Christmas Eve, and we capture these are the rates that are published on the Governor's Energy Office website. So in order to really capture that rebate for the heat pump installation, that is not a do-it-yourself. You want to have a professional installer look at that. They're going to do a sizing calculation for your home to make sure that you have enough heat pumps to keep you warm and toasty all winter, and just sort of the airflow and configuration. Our homes run the gamut in Maine, and so an open concept and a choppy home are going to need to have a different sort of heat pump system installation. And so the installers are trained in how to look for that, and you can use this database and sort by your zip code. As I mentioned earlier, it will populate everyone in your area that does this work, and it will, at the top, have those installers that do the most rebates for Efficiency Maine. So they're all vetted, they all have their insurance. But you can just sort of see who are those larger entities that do a lot of work for Efficiency Maine, and then on down the list. These are the heat pumps themselves. The heat pumps are for homeowners who want to use heat pumps for their primary heating. So we're asking folks to turn their boiler thermostats down and reserve that as emergency backup, and really lean on the heat pumps for all of your heat throughout the winter. And it's going to matter sort of what income the homeowner is and what the rebate will be from Efficiency Maine. So everyone is entitled to the $1,000 per unit rebate, and then we've got a moderate income category. If your adjusted gross income is within this threshold, we sort of double that rebate. And then if anyone in your household is on a benefit assistance list, Maine Care or SNAP, TANF, or HEAP, then we've got our largest, most generous rebate of $3,000 per unit. If you are wanting to capture one of those enhanced rebates for low or moderate income Mainers, we've got this page on our website that we need to just verify. So we do that as quickly as possible. I think we say allow 5 business days, and once you plug your information in, we'll get right back to you and send you an email and a paper copy through the mail, just so you've got that verification and you can share that with your installer that you indeed qualify for that higher rebate. And this is just a breakdown of how the whole flow goes. So you want to verify income if that's applicable. You want to go ahead and hire that installer. We also say get 3 quotes. So before you hire, you want to engage with more than one installer just to understand what the cost might be. They're all independent contractors, so they're going to set their own pricing. That rebate check will go to either your contractor or you, depending on who is checked on the claim form. So essentially, you can just pay the delta and have the rebate go to the installer, or you can pay in full and then get that rebate check back to you. And then save all of your receipts if applicable for any tax credits the following year. This is another financial example similar to what we looked at with the water heating. And this is just sort of expressing this in the bar chart area, expressing how a propane heated home would expect costs to fall with a heat pump heated home. You're going to have that baseline of electricity cost anyway when you're using your lights and you're using your appliances. And so we've sort of broken that down so you can sort of visualize what the savings could be. And it's pretty exciting against a propane house. You can go back to our other bar chart to look at, where you might fall and what you're using to heat your home. And then we have this other example to the right, just around what is a typical installed cost. So we're saying typical is maybe 2 heat pump units and less the rebate. What is the final cost? And then the savings. We've got a little payback chart down there as well. So again, heating and cooling with a significant savings against propane is pretty exciting. Now, there will be a portion of the project that is not covered by the rebate, and that is your out-of-pocket cost. And we do have this, home energy loan product available for anyone who could find that useful to cover the delta. I'm going to talk a little bit about insulation. This is a really popular offer. Some of the benefits of insulation are obvious, right? Reducing costs, increasing comfort. This time of year, I think, A lot of Mainers are struggling with ice dams and frozen pipes, certainly cold drafts. So insulation can help really tackle those issues. Again, this is not a do-it-yourself kind of measure. You want to have a professional installer do this work. They're going to make sure that your home isn't too tight where you're exacerbating some health and safety issues. And they will ensure that you're going to get the expected energy savings that you invest in. So this is the same database I shared earlier. In the services portion there, you can just click insulation and it'll work the same way. And the rebates that we offer for insulation, again, are sort of tiered by income. In this case, it's a percent of the project cost. So if your project is $10,000, that includes a little bit of attic, a little bit of basement, maybe some wall insulation, your total project is $10,000. Efficiency Maine is going to cover 40% of that, $4,000 in this case. Unless you're moderate income, Efficiency Maine will cover $6,000. And if you've got a low income person living in your home as their primary residence, Efficiency Maine will cover $8,000 of that $10,000 project. And in order to qualify for the enhanced rebates, certainly we want to just verify that you do qualify. So this is required. This is the web page where folks can go and put in their information. There is a mailed version if people are uncomfortable putting their sensitive data onto the website. You certainly don't have to do it that way. We can go the slower route and just do a paper copy. And a very similar flow. You want to verify income. If applicable, go ahead and hire whomever you like best after you've invited a few to give you quotes. The claim form is submitted and signed by both parties. On that claim form, there's a checkbox where the rebate will go. And that's it. We say allow 6 weeks for our rebates, and we try to deliver a lot faster than that. So this is not something that you're going to have to wait until April to do. The rebate check comes to you as immediately as possible right after the work is complete. And here's our financial example for installation. A typical installed cost we're seeing on average is about $6,800. Less the rebate is your final cost there. The annual savings here is, I think, based on an oil-heated home. Most of us in Maine heat with oil. And then we've got our payback there as well. Keep in mind the home energy loan is there to help cover that delta between, the rebate and the remainder. So that's available. I just wanted to also show some other things. These are available, a little less popular than the first 3 rebates I talked about, but we do have a wood boiler option or furnace. This is not like a wood stove or a pellet stove. This is a boiler in your basement where you're feeding it through a hopper and is connected to a distribution system. So this is a pretty generous rebate. Not a whole lot of Mainers heat this way, but it's available if you're interested, as well as a geothermal heat pump. It's a little different than the ducted that I talked about earlier. This is going to sort of like dig down and the installation of the geothermal heat pump tends to be a little higher. So we've got a $3,000 rebate on that. Also a clothes washer. This is just Energy Star. If you're in the market for a clothes washer, just be sure you buy an Energy Star one, save the receipt, and on our website, you can fill that out, send it in, and you get $50 in the mail. So everything I talked about is on our website at efficiencymaine.com, and we also have a call center in Brunswick. and they are staffed Monday through Friday during working hours, and they can answer any question whatsoever or get you connected to the correct team. And so with that, I went kind of quickly, but I want to save time for Elaine, and I'll hand it over to Elaine, and hopefully we'll have time at the end for questions. Thanks all.
Yes, thank you so much, Bridget. I'll jump right into introducing Elaine. Elaine Gallagher is a Tennessee-raised, Maine-based architect who describes herself as a bioclimatic design specialist and building performance enthusiast, focused on decarbonizing buildings and cities. Beyond her professional work leading engineering teams through hospital and university decarbonization projects, she's an electric vehicle advocate, backyard farmer, and self-described foodie who practices what she preaches when it comes to clean energy. Having already built a net zero energy home in coastal South Carolina, an experience she shared in a TED Talk, Elaine took on her next challenge in 2023 when she purchased a century-old cottage in Stonington. And Bridget, and Elaine, I think will share her experience in doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me switch my, there we go. All right, you should see the whole presentation screen. So as Brad mentioned, I'm Elaine Gallagher. My day job is leading a team of engineers working on large, complex campuses, hospitals, big universities, things like that, really helping them map what is ultimately an economical path through an energy transition from all kinds of dirty energy and inefficient buildings to efficiency and clean energy. And it's really kind of great. So naturally, I have to walk my talk. There's no way I can't, right? I'm so passionate about this. I actually started my career in historic preservation in largely Denver, but also actually Massachusetts. And once you have that conservation head, you just can't stop. And back in the 90s, I was doing a lot of window retrofits for historic preservation. And I and my team, we got pulled into consulting on making buildings more energy efficient. And we moved from not just historic buildings to any existing buildings. And then I got sucked into designing amazing new buildings that were greener than what was being built at the time. So my career has evolved from historic preservation through to very complex new buildings, and then also back to looking at hundreds of buildings at a time and trying to figure out how we can make them more efficient. So I'm gonna show you a story following largely what Bridget talked about, but I'll show you how I applied it. I bought a house in 2023 in Stonington. It had actually been abandoned for 3 years while the owner was in a nursing home. So the worst thing that can happen to any building, especially one that's 100 years old, is that it sit empty. It's just awful. A building will age so much faster when it's not loved and not taken care of. It's a lot like people, right? Buildings are so much like people. So on the right, you see what I bought. The wooden deck was hazardous. There were holes in it. It needed a lot of love there. It was occupied by a number of mice and spiders and all kinds of things. The house had actually been significantly renovated in 1991. So I can't say that I was dealing with a lot of historic fabric, but the house itself is historic. The bones are certainly historic. The windows were replaced in 1991 with Marvin windows at the time. They're really bad windows, but we do what we can to tighten them up. And I'll walk you through that. So one of the things that happened, of course, with an empty building, an empty home, is the plumbing wasn't taken care of. It wasn't winterized when the owner left. It happened very quickly. So the pipes froze, the system froze, even the valve was cracked at the street. So I get Eddie the plumber. And if any of you are on Dare Isle, you know who Eddie is. Eddie starts every sentence with, well. And I met Eddie the second day I owned, in fact, before I bought the house, to figure out how bad the water damage could be before we even turned on the water. And Eddie starts most of my conversations with him is, well, you want the good news or the bad news? And I'm like, oh God, Eddie, just tell me what I have to pay, because I'm pretty sure I bought Eddie a car that year. But the first thing I had to do was pour money into systems that nobody saw. And so once we got all the cracked pieces replaced and the system itself not likely to leak, once we turned it on, we did turn on the water. And I replaced all of the fixtures with low water fixtures. So that means I had low flow faucets, low flow shower, low flow or dual flush toilets. So that was really important to me. What you need to understand, in at least in my head, is the importance of looking at carbon. So carbon is a really great metric across the board. I can compare the carbon of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to a heat pump, right? So it's like the one metric that evens out everything. My headspace is always about reducing carbon, and that's carbon in water, that's carbon in energy, that's carbon in materials, whatever it is. We want to reduce carbon so that we can help mitigate climate change. And when you look at historic buildings, any existing buildings, a lot of people are talking about the embodied carbon of the building materials itself. So that's great. I don't pay a lot of attention to that because I'm more focused on the operational carbon. And really, when you look at embodied carbon, if we look at embodied carbon, it's really the carbon involved in manufacturing and transporting these building materials. And when you really dig into those, that's actually somebody else's operational carbon. So I work largely in operational carbon. But you will see that if we have an existing building, that's what we should hold. And I really got into historic preservation because I hate waste. I hate wasted beautiful buildings. I hate wasted time, wasted effort. These buildings are all still there. The greenest building is the one that already exists, always. And then, of course, right now, the carbon intensity of electricity is pretty huge. And that's what a lot of us are focused on right now. The oil-fired heat is most prevalent in the Northeast. So New England are the big users of heating oil in the United States. We are also big users now of solar photovoltaics, which is fantastic. I love seeing all the solar installations here on homes as well as in leftover land. I don't love seeing it in green space, but that's my own thing. We can actually, if we just maximized all our roofs, we wouldn't need to put solar fields out in the middle of farms so much. But then we also have here biomass, which is wood, right? Wood, whether it's pellets commonly or firewood. Firewood is biomass, right? So really looking at carbon as the equalizing metric helps you look at the whole thing. Carbon also is a health factor. So if you have something burning, combustion in your home, you have the potential to have carbon monoxide poisoning, right? So when we eliminate carbon and combustion in our homes, we eliminate the chance that we will have carbon monoxide poisoning, which is a real concern. So one of the first things I did on this house is a very wet basement. I put regraded around the house and really started to address the basement itself. And of course, in the basement is my oil-fired furnace or boiler. Eddie calls it the furnace. It's not a furnace, it's a boiler. But I also have this large oil tank, which is disgusting. I hate what it smells like when it runs. The first thing I wanted to do is get rid of it yesterday, right? You can see the soot that it spews out against the granite behind the house. That's really just that's coming right out of the flue from the boiler onto this piece of granite, and it just makes it blacker and blacker over time. That's going straight into our air. What people don't realize is that carbon is a mineral. It's black stuff going into the air, and you see it all the time when you're in larger urban areas. So I've got this basement, and the thing you have to know about heat pumps is that there's not just one kind. So Efficiency Maine, a lot of people in Maine and New England in general seem to talk about heat pumps as if they are only the ductless mini splits. Heat pumps come in a lot of different formats. So you can have air-to-air heat pump, you can have air-to-water, you can have water-to-air heat pumps. There's all different kinds. You can have a heat pump that goes to a central air system. You can have the heat pump, which is the ductless mini split, which has its own kind of abbreviated infrastructure inside your house. You can also get a heat pump, high temperature heat pump water boiler. Now, in New England, a lot of us have hydronic heat. And it just kills me. It goes back to my hate of my dislike of waste. If these homes have these wonderful hydronic heating systems, which is like the best heat ever, whether it's the old cast iron radiators or the baseboard radiators, it's a wonderful heat. And I hate seeing people just kind of abandon them and put in a mini split when actually we could just replace these oil-fired boilers or gas-fired boilers, both of which create combustion in your basement or wherever they are. If we replace those with high temperature water or high temperature heat pumps, we can actually make our homes much more efficient, burning cleaner, healthier, safer for us, right? The problem is this technology exists in Europe. How many times do we hear that? The Europeans have had heat pump water heaters, high temperature water heaters, boilers, for probably 15 years. There are not many, if any, that are currently approved for use in the US. There are a couple of companies that are sticking their toe in. I think two of them I know from Canada, one from, I believe it's out of New York. And they're not well-known brands. Therefore, my local service people would not touch them. I found one person who would replace my boiler, and he gave me with a heat pump, high temperature heat pump boiler, and he gave me a price of $30,000 to do it. Now, I'm telling you, it's just like for like. It's a box and a tank, just like what you see here, $30,000. Now, I replaced 2 heat pumps and 2 air handlers in South Carolina for $23,000. And this guy was telling me it's $30,000 for one boiler. So right now there's this reluctance to try new technologies and install new technology. But I'm really excited because word on the street and word from the industry is that Daikin, which is a very well-known boiler company, is going to introduce their European high temperature water boiler to the US market sometime in 2026. So this is what I'm holding out for. So when I called my talk the never ending story, what I want people to come away with is, even though you know exactly what to do, like this is my job, I do it all day long for lots of people. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to just be patient. Sometimes you have to wait for the right technology. That's what I'm doing here. I just don't want that. I just don't want combustion. I hate the oil. So I'm willing to wait for the right technology. Now, what I did do was put in, so this is an example of one of the options that they use in Europe for the high temperature air to water heat pump. What I did do right away, though, is I installed a heat pump water heater, just like what Bridget was showing you. Couldn't get that in fast enough because that meant that I could turn off that oil boiler for a big chunk of the year. And then all I had was the heat pump water heater in my basement, which, by the way, does cool the basement. It does dry out the basement. That's helped me a lot. Now I do have a boiler down, my oil boiler down there, and I also have a generator or a battery down there, electric battery down there, generating heat. So that area stays pretty warm, and my water heater can take that heat from that space and turn it into hot water. It's great. I do have firewood, right? So a lot of us do. On average, heating a home in New England costs $602 for natural gas, maybe $1,000 for electricity, over $1,000 for propane, and $1,400 for heating oil for an average New England home across New England. These are very high. You don't understand. If you've only lived here, this is higher than a lot of the rest of the country. So the fact that we don't talk all the time at every cocktail party about how to reduce our energy costs just kind of floors me. But for me, solar energy is a no-brainer. Solar energy has reached what we call grid parity years ago. It is cheaper right now to buy solar energy, to install it and buy it, than it's ever been. And the opportunities here are fantastic. So I shopped around, and when Bridget says shop around, I mean shop around. I called some solar contractors, and this is like a love letter to the incentives we no longer have. But the 30% tax credit for renewable energy was fantastic, and unfortunately it's gone now. But I definitely took advantage of that. When I was pricing them, one of the things you have to do when you do these kinds of projects is know going in how much it should cost. So use Energy Sage, something, know how much to expect, because then you can spot when somebody's trying to charge too much for you. Offhand, I was given one estimate that was almost exactly 30% higher than it should have been, which told me that the contractor was trying to take my 30% tax credit. I had one where the price was exactly right. It was like they took it right off of Energy Sage. It was exactly where I expected it to be. And then they offered me solar financing. The solar financing wanted to charge me a finance charge of 30%. So the finance company was trying to take that 30% incentive. You have to be really on top of it. You have to know what you're doing. The other things I did was I installed an induction stove. It was great. I love induction cooking. Once you do that, you never go back. There's my heat pump water heater. Ended up with a beautiful kitchen. I should have shown you some befores, but I put in all LED lights all throughout the house. Now, I don't buy LED light fixtures. I buy regular light fixtures and I use LED bulbs. If you put in an LED fixture and it outlives itself and you have to replace just one, you can't, because you have to replace all of them because the new ones won't look like the old ones. It's much easier to replace an LED bulb than an entire fixture. So that's just waste. Try not to throw out more material than you need to. I used all water sense fixtures in the house, just knowing that 13% of electricity in the United States is used just to deliver our water and treat our water. So this is what I have. On the right is my before. That's what I bought on the day that I closed. And this is what it looks like on the left with my new EPA certified wood stove, which I just got a really nice tax credit for 2025. So if you're going to buy a new wood stove, make sure it's EPA certified with or without the tax credits. It's a really nice wood stove. Personally, I worked on tightening the envelope rather than insulating it. It was already insulated in 1991 as well as they did back then. But these windows, they're awful. I wish I had had the historic windows. I could have retrofitted the historic windows. I can't retrofit the Marvins. It's really frustrating. But we do what we can. The rule of thumb with historic buildings is first, tighten them, second, insulate them. If you're gonna insulate them, pay attention because you could do a lot more damage than good. So focus first on tightening. Ended up with just a really lovely home. Because I'm an architect, I'm allergic to color. I painted everything white and it just brightened up everything, of course. And again, all LED, all safe materials. I don't use anything toxic. All my paint is low VOC. It means something to me. It's really important. And trying to walk my talk. No compromises. And I mean on either side. I live in a beautiful, almost net zero energy house. And at the same time, I speak up loudly when officials try to give historic buildings a free pass on energy, because I would argue vehemently that historic buildings are often better than newer buildings when it comes to energy efficiency and building performance. So that's it, walking my talk.
Thank you so much, Elaine, and thank you, Bridget. We're going to open to Q&A. So if you have, there are a few questions that came up in the chat, as well as you can raise your hand as well. I just want to thank both speakers. I think we don't need to do those deep retrofits of our homes, and everyone can kind of contribute to decarbonization and making your homes more energy efficient. And in return, that's at the end of the day saving us money. And so it's anywhere from a new hot water heater to insulating and putting solar panels and going fully electric. And so I'm glad it was great to see the continuum of all those options and how we can all play a part. Looking at the chat, there was a recent question. You talk more about the risks of insulating an older home. Elaine, if you wanted to cover that one.
Sure. It's kind of a can of worms, and it depends on what the house is built of, right? What happens is you have a dew point that occurs somewhere in your wall, and depending on where you are in the world, that dew point moves around. How you insulate also affects where that dew point happens. We run hygrothermal analysis, which is nerdy speak for really understanding what the temperature of the wall, temperature and humidity of the wall is as mostly humidity goes through the wall, but also the temperature changes. What can happen really easily if you're not careful with historic fabric and insulation is that you end up with essentially condensation on the inside of your wall, and that's when you see walls rotting away, and it's so sad. You see it a lot with closed cell foam. Don't use any closed cell foam in a historic building, just don't. Maybe down at the foundation, maybe a foot above the foundation, not sure. But in general, don't use closed cell foam. If you use open cell foam, use it as boards. I wouldn't necessarily blow it in. But just be real careful about that. And I can't even give you rules of thumb. Like I said, I concentrate much more on tightening my house. I love the new natural insulations. What you want is not a vapor barrier so much as an air barrier. That's what you're going for. You don't want to hold the vapor anywhere, and that's what really holds that can cause real problems. That's probably clear as mud, but that's the best I can do without going into technical tools.
And Elaine, you just mentioned you used the word tighten. That was another question, as opposed to insulating. And I think that goes around kind of sealing gaps. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Best thing you can do, oh my gosh, get an energy audit and a blower door test. And that will tell you where it is. That will scream where your problems are. And it's like the best investment you can get. Bridget, I think there are incentives for getting an energy audit and a blower door test. It's worth it. Do it. It's great for historic houses. It even shows you if you have like a brick house, it shows you where you just, I say, repointing your brick even helps tighten your home.
Yeah, so air sealing is housed within our insulation measure, but really, that is something that folks can do, right? Just take some caulk and go around your windows. You can feel where the air is coming in. So you don't necessarily need to do thousands and thousands of dollars of insulation when you can just do that quick DIY project yourself and seal up those holes.
Seal it up, check your windows. I mean, the worst thing with my windows is the locks were installed wrong at some point. So I went through and I tightened them I got them as close as I could, and I got them to where when I latched it, it was tight. Because when I bought the house and I latched them, they were like still a little open. It was terrible. So, sometimes it's so simple. It just takes an afternoon to figure out why you feel air blowing into your house. I got new doors. Mine were awful. They were steel next to the ocean. I mean, who decided that was a good idea? They were rusted through. So I got new solid wood doors and weather stripped them well. And now there's nothing getting through them. It just, all these little decisions you make as you retrofit a house, just do it smart.
And Bridget, I wanted to give the opportunity, as someone who works with property owners and talks about preservation, and there's a lot of misconceptions with preservation. Are there big misconceptions around the energy rebates that you work with, or any kind of things you hear from the public that you wish you could say, no, actually it's this?
Yeah, I don't know about big misconceptions other than, with that installation, I think I do hear a lot of pushback from the general public. Like, why can't I just do that myself? Why can't I just go buy that insulation and put it in my attic. And I see that like just discount it on the shelf, right? But as far as, everything that Elaine is saying too, the insulators in our database have that training. They have their Building Performance Institute training. That health and safety piece is super important. So you're not exacerbating moisture issues. And they test in, they test out, they have the blower door, they can do all that stuff. So it really is, more of a science in how that home breathes, and these folks do it every single day. So we want to ensure that we are claiming the energy savings to the state, and actually getting the energy savings that we claim. So it's important to have all of those minimum qualifications under your belt before you start throwing insulation and air sealing and tightening up envelopes and things like that.
I'd love to address the window question.
Go for it.
Windows always comes up. So I always say, if you're building a new home, put money in the windows. It's really, really important. I always say, just understand that your windows should cost more. They always should. And in that case, you get a casement window. It closes nice and tight. If your historic home has casements, you're blessed. It's great. But understand too that if you have historic windows, they are not automatically bad. I can and have retrofitted many historic windows to be tighter, better, more efficient than a brand new window, than many basic new windows. You'd have to invest pretty well in new windows to do better than a retrofitted historic window, plus maybe an interior storm. So I love where we're going with the interior storms that just kind of fit in with a gasket. You just push them in. They have little handles. You can pull them out when you want them in the summer, when you want them out in the summer. It makes a huge difference. But if you have historic windows, there's a lot you can do to retrofit them. I did not have any luck finding anyone who could retrofit my windows. They're also not historic. I was spoiled when I worked in Denver. We had two or three companies in the area that all they did was retrofit historic windows, and they did it really, really well. So don't give up on your historic windows. Just see what you can do to tighten them up, retrofit them. You are never going to find a new window made as beautifully as that historic window, unless they are completely rotten, and then invest in new windows. And the question about infrared app, or infrared camera. I have one. They're really fun, but they're very expensive.
Yeah, it was great to not hear Windows throughout the whole hour program. So that was except to address that they are kind of the end of the checklist, unless you are ready to make a big investment. I did add a link in the chat to Window Dressers, which is a Northern New England wide nonprofit that does community builds and supports the production of kind of low-cost interior storms. I have them in my house. They make a huge kind of comfort level difference, and
You
as
can
well as
also
real
kind of
cost
make it
savings.
yourself if you're creative.
Yeah, it's a more formal version of hair drying cellophane around your window.
Well, you can do them a little nicer than that even by
Yeah.
yourself. The gasket and a really good heavy piece of polycarbonate. Or not
Awesome.
polycarbonate. What's the clear plastic?
We do have a few more questions, but Elaine and Bridget, I want to be mindful of your time. If you need to go, please do. Maybe we'll go for 5 more minutes if that's okay.
Sure. I'm available. I'm also just trying to answer some stuff in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and we can also, this will be recording will be on our website, hosted on YouTube, but available on our website. And so I see you addressed the question kind of more about a commercial building in the sense of your program.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there are other questions. There was one about, I have a mail slot. It's a beautiful historic feature. How do any good solutions for just plugging that up maybe temporarily for the winter? And obviously a lot of these solutions are also to help our homes stay cool. That insulation is also part of that heating and cooling process.
Yeah, I always tell people, I remind them that insulation keeps the heat on the side you want it. That's what it does.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. Like I know that's my next investment is insulation. Um, and I did want to comment just on some of the kind of things with what Bridget and Elaine were mentioning. Um, is that a lot of, or one thing that we offer through our field services program is that we're willing to have these one-on-one conversations with property owners and homeowners about what are some kind of low-hanging fruits, things that you can do to your home to make them more energy efficient or to seal those gaps. What's the best bang for your buck? Insulating the attic, for example, and making sure that those decisions are going to not cause harm to the building, not just to historic fabric, but just maybe create mold or create a habitat for mold. So we're able to and willing to and happy to provide that service. And you can always reach out to us at info at mainpreservation.org. I'm going to check the chat here. I think we kind of addressed all the questions that folks
We're asking
had.
about a mail slot. That's a tough one,
Yeah,
whoever wrote that. Um, I've often thought about that. I've had two houses with mail slots and they just let a lot of air in. I wasn't willing to do anything about it. It just kind of was the weak spot in the house. I suppose you could get creative and make some kind of insert that you take out and put in. I don't know. That's a lot of work, but it would have to be open for mail. So that's tough.
Elaine, earlier you mentioned the company that could potentially be releasing a
The
different
heat
heat pump,
pump
pump
water.
option. What was
That's
the name
Dakin.
of the company?
Yeah. I gave it a thumbs up. Yeah, that's
Okay,
Dakin.
great.
And I know my local electrician and plumber would they are comfortable with Dakin. It's a name they recognize. They'll hold up the warranties. The other ones will too, but people are just very reticent to install equipment they don't know.
I'll mention too that that does not fall under a rebate eligible project because the installation cost is, it's not screening out as a cost effective use of public funds at this time because it is so costly and we don't have many. We do at Efficiency Maine have a pilot project happening in the northern part of the state to really test out some of those. And I don't believe it's just Dakin. I think there are other manufacturers involved in
Yeah,
that as
there are.
well.
There's two of them out of Canada that have a really nice product. I was just not able to find anyone who would install it.
And Bridget, so that's something that's Efficiency Maine's continually looking at new
Yeah, I
technologies.
mean, we'd
Okay.
love that, right? As Elaine said, we're all heating with boilers, and if we can just easily,
It's a one for one. It should
yeah,
be so simple.
yeah, yeah, we'd love that solution. So, hopefully.
Great. Well, with that, we hit our extra 5 minute mark. I appreciate Elaine and Bridget for staying a few extra minutes and for addressing questions and for joining to share all this great information. We will have the the recording available on our website. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation, please reach out to us or join us at our next Monday meetup for historic homeowners on March 2nd. Otherwise, thank you so much, and everyone have a great day and take care.